Hello, BookTube. It's Tag Tuesday, and I have a tag here that I think I was tagged in from Jim's books, reading, and stuff. uh, he did, a while ago, he did a couple of alphabet-related tags that were a lot of fun. He's got a knack for this. And he's decided to embark on what I hope is a complete list of alphabet tags, starting with the A tag. How wonderful. So much fun. So all the prompts revolve around A of one kind or another. And number one is A is for America. What do you consider to be the great American novel? So Jim is starting off the tag by picking a fight. And for me, I've been asked this question more times than I can count. And for me, there is no one blanket answer. Instead, you have to go by time period. You just have to. So I always break it down to 19th, 20th, and now 21st century. In the 19th century, the greatest novel is Moby Dick. In America. And for the 20th century, it would be The House of Mirth. I would ordinarily say The Magic Mountain, but I'm not 100% sure you would call that an American novel. So, The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. And then for the 21st century, just barely, by a squeak, it would be The Last Samurai. Needless to say, do not agree with Jim's own choice, but I can't wait to hear what other people say. This is always a great, it's this American idea of the great American novel, so easily satirized that Philip Roth actually made it the title of one of his own novels, and it constantly vying, people always wondering, is this the great American novel? So I always exclude it 2 centuries rather than say there's just one in general. If I had to pick a great American novel of them all, it would probably be Moby Dick. Even though Moby Dick has, obvious limitations, I would still probably be that for just the ways that it is the strangest and most powerful novel that has come out of this country. I loved watching Lukács at Cruel Reader's Thesis read Moby Dick a second time and have it, and suddenly start to realize, oh, this is so much more than my appreciative first reading. That tends to be true. That never goes away. But anyway, I'm going to stick with those 3 for now. Then question number 2 is A is for ARC. And here Jim says that he is not referring to an ARC, an advanced reader's copy, which is my own bread and butter. Instead, he wants to talk about which character in literature has the most interesting character arc. I'm going to fudge here just a little because I've been doing a lot of reading of religious stuff for Maybe Midrash, a religious-themed BookTube event that I'm helping to host. And my answer for this one is going to be Jesus, who, I don't know if you'd call it's fudging, not because Jesus doesn't count, but because I'm not sure it counts as a character arc. But Jesus, I've been reading the Gospels for the 80 millionth time, and I've been noticing the arc of a change in Jesus over the course of the 4 Gospels. It goes from a very secretive figure, constantly telling people, don't tell anyone what you've just seen. Don't tell them about this miracle. Don't tell them about me. To all the way at the end of the Gospel of John, to him openly proclaiming that he is God. That he is a God, anyway, but that he is one with the Father. And openly proclaiming to people, you should be following me, you should be worshiping me. I have noted that progression for the whole of my life. I have been reading these things and loving them for the whole of my life, and I was noticing it again when I was reading a couple of Gospels in particular. So I'm going to say Jesus. Then the next sort of prompt is sort of wedged in here. It's A is for Abby. That is Jim's adorable beagle. This is a prompt, not a prompt, but some of you have asked for more footage of Abby, and I've got footage right here of the bean. Hello, bean. How you doing, baby? Oh, you're so pretty. You're so pretty. We went on a walk earlier today out in the woods and in the countryside around there, and I love the fact that Frida is full of get up and go. She's full of spirit, but boy oh boy, that means I have to watch her when it's hot, because I have noticed from the time when she was a tiny puppy, she really doesn't handle the heat well at all. Not at all. And unlike my old girls, my previous 2 dogs, the minute they got a little bit warm, they started to slow down and then stop. There was no question of me watching to see they weren't overexerting themselves. Frida will just charge ahead, so I do have to do that. But anyway, there you've got some Frida footage. So the next prompt is A is for Australia. What was the last book you read by an Australian author? And the Australian author I have in mind here is called Peter Polites, Polites, and the book was called Down the Hume. a bit of gay fiction for the gays. But I didn't think it was all that good. And also, this is a prolific author. I didn't get the impression, it wasn't that I got the impression that I was reading a bad outing. I got the impression that I was reading an author who's just not that good. Now, I might be wrong about this. This is the only book of his that I've read. But I didn't see the tools there either. That ordinarily, I look for both. I look, what is your performance in this book? And also, what tools do you have in open display? If the tools are first rate and the performance is not, then I fault the book, but not you. And I didn't get that impression. But I'm going to try him again. I'm going to try another book of his. But he's the last Australian that I read. Then number 4 is A is for Austen. What do you plan to read for Jane Austen July? Another big booktube event coming up right around the corner. I will be reading Pride and Prejudice again. I'm wondering, just in a Zen kind of way, what will happen if I read a book literally 1 million times? Is that like reading the 1 million names of God? Do I cause the end of the heat death of the universe? I have no idea what's going to happen when I've read a book 1 million times, but I'm awful close with Pride and Prejudice, so I'm going to try it again. Then question number 5 is A is for automobile. What is your favorite literary automobile? And I honestly couldn't think of one. Cars are in all of the stuff that I read, or a lot of the contemporary fiction that I read, but I honestly don't know how to answer that any more than favorite restaurant in a work of literature. I'm going to have to pass on this one. It's the only one I'm passing on, but I just don't know how to answer it. Then number 6 is A is for anonymous. What is your favorite book or poem published anonymously? Just because it's on my mind, not only because an older translation is being reprinted, but because a new translation is coming out, I would say Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which was composed by an anonymous poet at the same time in the exact same era as Geoffrey Chaucer was writing his poem. You could not find anything less similar and equally brilliant. So I would say that. I kind of wish I knew who wrote that poem. Not that it would change anything, but one way or another, it's on my mind because it's a very pretty reprint of, for instance, Tolkien's translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Well worth your time. Tolkien really knew his way around poetry. We tend to forget that because of Lord of the Rings, but nevertheless. Then question number 7 is A is for autobiography. What was the last autobiography you read? I'm going to stretch a point here. I'm pretty sure this counts as autobiography. It's a book called The Fox and I by Catherine Raven. I think I've showed it on this channel before. It's about an author who is a misanthrope, burned by the human world, goes to take a job in the far remote reaches of Montana, and is visited regularly by a wild fox. And she starts to befriend the fox. Not tame, not domesticate, just befriend. Go out, haul a chair out there and read out loud with the fox around. Watch the fox. And the book grows from there, and it is amazing. It's just an amazing book. I loved it. It had its flaws, but I loved it. And I think it counts as autobiography, certainly. And then number 8 is A is for audiobooks. Do you consider listening to an audiobook the same as reading? So Jim is ending the tag as he began it by trying to start a fight. And I don't view listening to an audiobook the same as reading. Of course I don't. Audiobooks take a large number of decisions out of your hands as a reader. The pacing, for instance. What kind of violence does it do to a well-constructed narrative? Maybe not contemporary fiction, but a well-constructed narrative. What kind of violence does it do to that if you'd hit that little ×2 button at the bottom of Audible and suddenly the narrative speeds up? What kind of a travesty is that to the reading experience the author carefully crafted? Also, the tone and intonation of different characters and their conversation, if that is taken out of your hands if you listen to an audiobook. The disposition of the reader, of the narrator in the audio. You can't avoid those dispositions if you're a human being. What if your audio narrator doesn't particularly enjoy reading, for instance, exposition dumps or scenery descriptions? There's no way they're going to be able to hide that, and it's going to affect your listening experience. Whereas in reading a book silently to yourself with no distractions, keep in mind you can't cook your supper while you're reading a book. If you're reading a printed page, all of those decisions are up to you. You will decide what they are, and the author... Yeah, we're going to have to worry about background noise this summer, I think. But one way or another, the author intended... A good author manipulates all of those things consciously. Doesn't want it reduced to some one person. Also, the other drawback is too many people, too many readers lament the fact that they don't read more, even as it is. And the reason they don't read more is because they subvocalize. They're sounding out the words in their head as they're reading with their eyes. You don't need to do that. And it slows you down enormously when you read. And the habit of subvocalizing while you read is immensely strengthened. If you're listening to the book, of course it is. Of course, I don't consider them the same thing at all. The question does not ask me to make a value judgment. It just says, do you consider them the same? So I could have avoided the fight, but I don't consider them the same at all. And as you can tell from these comments, I think that listening to audiobooks is a lesser version of importing into your brain the experience of a book. If I can say it in the broadest possible terms. It is a much lessened version of that experience, in my opinion. And then the next thing is to tag people. And I want to tag Tom at LA Books. I want to tag Motley Reads, Revenant Reads, Gina Stanier, Book Time with Elvis, and also Matt at Paperback Junkie. But with him, there is a stipulation for the tag, which is that Zoe has to be in the tag, because they have the funnest booktube fights of all. They are the funnest booktube fights anywhere on the platform. And if Zoe's in the video, there's a chance one will break out, and that is premium popcorn viewing. So there you go. That is the A tag. Here's hoping that Jim goes on to the B tag next. It'll be a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for Tag Tuesday, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.